Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. You know what it's like. You get a call on your mobile phone from a number you don't recognise. So who is it and what do they want? If it's a telemarketer, you just want to give them the brush off. But what if it's you making the call to a prospective client? How do you keep them on the phone long enough to hear your message and hopefully take action? That's when you turn to Bri Williams for advice. Bri is a behavioural specialist. She understands how people tick and she knows what to say to get people on side. So why can it be so difficult to make sales calls? Bri tells Chris Ashmore that it comes down to two things: fear of not knowing what to say and fear of rejection.
The good news is that both of these are social conditioning. Okay, so we can reverse them. We can get over these concerns that we have about what to say and that they're going to say no. And I think the trick when it comes to picking up that phone is to stop thinking about it as selling to someone and instead flip that and think of it as them buying from you. Because the gold is it takes the emphasis from you selling to them buying, and it shifts your attention to that of your customer.
They're in the hot seat.
They are. It takes all the pressure off you because you're not thinking about, I've got to sell this. It's really about how am I going to influence their behaviour so that they want to buy from me.
What's the ultimate goal then in making a sales call?
The ultimate goal really is to get people to buy something, but not necessarily in that phone call. And that's also where we can go wrong because we put a lot of pressure on it and think, this is really why I'm dialing the phone because I want to make a sale. Instead, we really need to break it down to two things I really feel about these sorts of calls. One is to filter out whether it's a match. So again, is it a match between them and you? But also, your ultimate goal of a sales call is really just to make progress in that relationship. So progress it from them not wanting to speak to you to being open to speak to you. And that really, within a sales call, is a good outcome. You don't need to make the big sale in that interaction.
I suppose the ultimate goal for someone who picks up the phone from someone making the sales call is to brush them off. Why do people brush people off?
Well, we've all been there, haven't we? We've been the recipient of the dreaded telemarketer call. I think it comes down to when we're picking up the phone, when we are interrupted, we think, is this going to be either a give or a take? Is someone calling to give me something? So, for instance, is a customer calling to give me business? Well, that would be awesome. Or is a family member calling to give me some good news? Or is someone going to call me to take something? And that's usually when people are more defensive. So they're calling to take my time. They're calling to take my money. So that's the sort of mindset that people have when they're picking up the phone. So their propensity is to brush us off because it's much easier to do that. We're creatures of the path of least resistance. We want to maintain the status quo. It is much easier to say, no, I don't want to hear what you're telling me, even if, for instance, you have the best solution in the market. That requires effort from me to change from what I'm currently doing.
So how do you get through that barrier, that brush off? What do you suggest?
It is a difficult task, no doubt. I break it down into three things. The first is tone. So you want to approach the conversation in a gentle and humble way. And you did this beautifully, Chris, when you called me. I think you said something around, you don't know me, but I'm Chris. And then you continued the conversation. So secrets there, use their name. So if they've introduced themselves with their name, so hi, this is Bri. Oh, hi, Bri. So that's the first thing, because many consultants forget to do that. And then start to say, hi, for instance, hi, Chris, this is Bri, you don't know me. And that then reduces their defensiveness because there's no expectation that they do know you. And then you start to introduce yourself. This is Bri from People Patterns. And then you go into what you want to talk about. So that's the very start of the conversation. Then one of the secrets is not to say, is this a good time? Because it's very easy for people on the end of the phone to say, well, actually, no, it's not a good time. You've interrupted me. So it's very easy when someone says, is this a good time, to generate reasons why it's not. So instead, is this a bad time? So, hi, Chris, this is Bri. You don't know me yet. Is this a bad time? That will invite them to say, actually, no, there are worse times. It's not a bad time. Let's have a conversation. And the third thing, when they start to inquire really what it's regarding, that is a trap, because what they're saying, what is this regarding? You tell them and they say, no, we've already got someone to do that, or we already manage it. You've got to be ready with an answer to say, that's great, because what I really wanted to talk to you about was, and then you invite them into a conversation about, I know it's a long shot, but if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about your current setup, what would that be? And that keeps the ball rolling in terms of a conversation.
Is name dropping a good strategy? You know, when you say somebody recommended or Bob Smith told me to ring you or something?
That's perfect, Chris. So not only are we saying who we are and that they don't know us yet, and is it a bad time, but we can then go on to say, Janet Brooks suggested I call you. So we drop a name in there. Now, if no one has recommended that you call them, instead you can say, I see that we're both connected to Janet Brooks on LinkedIn, and that made me think of you. And so you're using someone that they might be familiar with, the closer the relationship, the better, to establish your credibility, but also signal that you are part of their in-group. So you are within the fold. You're connected, you're networked in some way, because that, again, will warm them up to listening to you.
A lot of this comes down to good preparation. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. And the easiest way to prepare for a sales call is to, again, not think of it as a sales call. Think of it as a behaviour change exercise. I'm trying to shift someone from one behavioural state to another, from not taking my call to taking my call, from not being open to a follow-up conversation to being open to a follow-up conversation. So again, it's not about selling, it's really about laying the land so that they're going to be willing to buy from you.
Would you recommend people use a script?
Ideally, no. Scripts can sound robotic. Again, we've all been the recipients of telemarketers that call us and it's very clearly a script. What I would tend to say if people are very nervous about it is they roadmap the conversation. So they have sections of the conversation that they might be aiming towards, and they have key phrases that might help them get there. Very important in this is their ability to listen. So we need to listen to the person on the end of the phone and pick up those nuances. Are they in an angry state? Are they in a relaxed state? Is there background noise or not? So starting to pick up on those cues so that we can then nuance and provide a lot of personalisation in how we're going to approach them.
It comes down to practice. Just keep doing it. You'll get better at doing it.
I think so. And if you're introverted like me, and I've actually written some content and created some videos around this, I have a section called How to Sell If You Hate Selling, because it's not naturally disposed for me. So this is the audience that I'm speaking to, because if people have no problem calling, particularly cold calling, then, they don't need to do any work on the behavioural science of how to do it. But the opportunity is very much to think about and plan what you're doing and then take the pressure off yourself by saying, you know what, I'm just going to look at this as an exercise and trying to shift their behaviour in a very small way. So don't think about the outcome being a sale. Really think about the outcome being I'm progressing this relationship.
That was behavioural specialist Bri Williams. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media And head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast.
SoundCartel.
This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.